to stop.
Even though it's a cemetery, to me, it's a living history of the people that came here before us, and we're just blessed to be standing on their shoulders. Llano Cemetery is a repository of memories and the history of Amarillo and the Texas Panhandle. So it's interesting to me to walk through the halls of this mausoleum or walk the grounds of the cemetery and recognize those names and feel a connection to the past.
Why are cemeteries so fascinating?
They are the last vestiges of people that we hold dear. Their stories are untold because you don't know what the dash is between the two dates. People are creative in the way that they express their grief and the way they honor the lives of their loved ones, whether it's through extreme opulence or through rocks that they express the passion of a man. The things that they put on the epitaphs, you never know, what they're going to say. There's humor and there's sorrow. And in some ways, there's just so much history as you walk amongst them. And if you're a historian and you know those people, it's like you're walking with kinfolk. So you just kind of walk amongst them like, yeah, I know that guy. I know who that is. And oh yeah, that's so-and-so over there. And so to me, they just have always held a fascination since I was a little kid. I love old cemeteries. The cemetery was established in 1888. There's a couple of stories as to how it began. The oldest, more reliable story is that a child passed away belonging to a Hathaway family, and that child was buried there and later was removed to Dallas. The more legendary story that you kind of hear typically if you go to the tours is that either a child or a young woman by the name of Lillian Morrow passed away as her family was traveling through on wagon to go from Missouri, I believe, into the western parts of the United States. They asked the Clisby family to bury her there, and she was the first permanent burial there. And there is a marker for her there.
Why are some stories more reliable than others?
Part of them become legend over time. And in the case of the Lillian Morrow story, I think that marker was probably placed later in some of the newspaper stories. When you go back into 1938 and 1921, when they're talking about the history of it, you get a little closer to the sources. And that's where there's some discrepancies in that story. Her current marker has it as Mrs. Lillian Morrow, but earlier stories will say that it was a child that came through. The most credible source for me has been Della Keys, and she did a research based from the Potter County story. And she tells the story of the Hathaway child, and then later mentions that a child belonging to a family traveling through was buried there. She doesn't give names or credit, anything to it beyond that. Initially, the Clisby family just allowed more people to be buried there. And eventually, in 1889, Potter County purchased it from the Clisby family. And then they took ownership of it. And they were using it as a pauper cemetery, and then others began to build up in the area. And the center part of the cemetery, kind of to the east of the mausoleum, is where the old part of the cemetery is. And we have there's a grave or two there that actually dates before Lillian Morrow, but we believe they may have been moved to that location. Some possibility. There may have been another burial spot in Amarillo, but the documents haven't led us to figure out where that was at. Mr. Clisby and Judge Browning come together, and they decide to join and create the Llano Cemetery Association. And out of that is born what we know of as the cemetery to this day. Judge Browning in 1921 was kind of the leader of the association. On a Tuesday, he went to drop the papers into the mail for the state, and they found him dead the next morning. The day that the funeral was held for him was the day that they approved the incorporation for the cemetery. And so to me, he kind of gives us all in that story. You walk in the door and you have to know C.T. Herring. He's the bride at every wedding and the corpse at every funeral. And he is just perfectly, pompously buried in the very center of the nave. And you walk into the chapel area, right there is his grave. And he had put a lot of money into the cemetery. When they built the mausoleum in, I believe, the early 30s, everyone contributed to doing it. And he passed away in 31. And so a huge amount of money, was spent by those who wanted the most predominant rooms. Melissa oliver-eakle is buried there. Ernest Thompson's parents are buried there, and a number of just city greats. C.T. Herring was a cattleman of ginormous proportion. He started out in the Vernon area, and he helped to bring the Fort Worth and Denver Railroad to Vernon. He was a huge part of building up the city of Vernon. He was a co-cattleman with W.T. Wagner and Burke Burnett, and then they will eventually partner with Quanah Parker and run cattle up in the Comanche territory until Theodore Roosevelt comes to visit and kind of puts an end to that. Then he moves his cattle industry into the Texas Panhandle in 1909, moves to Amarillo, and eventually will lend the money to Ernest Thompson to build the Herring Hotel, which his name is on. Avery Turner was a railroad man. He spent 63 years with the railroad, 58 of those was with the Santa Fe. He is kind of given credit for building the railroad lines through Laguna and Los Animas in that area. But he made his residency up on about 1706 Polk Street and some of the beautiful houses along the Silk Stocking Row area. I think anyone can be buried in that pioneer area, but you find a lot of the old cattlemen there. Some of your older families, Masterson is in that area, R.B. Masterson is buried in that area, and some of those original families that came to the Texas Panhandle, and many of them start out like in other parts of the area and migrate towards Amarillo as they get older or their families want better education. The statue that is the father and the mother and the little boy was sculpted by H.D. Bugbee, who is the first curator of art at Panhandle Plains Historical Museum, and his paintings adorn the walls there. The cemetery, along about 1930 or so, decided to give each racial group in the city of Amarillo a place to bury their dead so they could, in the words of Mr. Galecki, lie amongst their own race. And that seems incredibly, I suppose, racist to us today. So as a result of that, we have a Jewish section of the cemetery. We have an African American section. There's a Hispanic section. There's a Catholic section to the cemetery. And then we have, obviously, the larger section being, white. There's a railroad section. We have a section that was dedicated to the railroad labor workers. The flu influenza section. As I've done research on the influenza situation in Amarillo, I have always heard that legend of there being this mass grave out there, but the story in the newspaper articles aren't adding up. And I can only find a number of about maybe at the most 50 to 60 people that pass away. And they're scattered all throughout their names are listed in the newspaper. They're scattered all throughout the cemetery. But there is a number, there's like a row there of, I don't know, maybe 20 or so graves. If you go to the Catholic cemetery, there's a row of nuns from the various convents that have been a part of Amarillo's history. And there's a row of nuns there. And then all of our bishops are buried there, including Bishop Fitzsimon, our famous, our larger of the diocese ministers. He's there, the statue of Jesus and that's in that part of the cemetery. Makes up a part of the statuary there. In the Jewish community, we have a small Jewish community by about 1909, about 5 to 10 families. Little by little, the population grows in the city of Amarillo. Names like Cezanne and Fenberg were jewelers that started out in Panhandle and they come here. A number of our clothing stores, Colbert's, many of these stores were Jewish families who were living in the area. Black section is sort of on the south section. It's about 2 or 3 rows in, not very well marked.
J.O. Wyatt in the African American section.
He founded one of the first clinics in Amarillo over on the north side of town and provided medical care early to impoverished people across the city of Amarillo. Matthew Bones Hooks is buried in the African American section of the cemetery with his wife. It's a very simple marker for a very incredibly amazing man, and so who did a lot for the city of Amarillo.
We have over 7,000 veterans buried here, and to walk among their graves, and even by reading some of the individual memorials and monuments and markers, you can tell what they did. You can tell if they were killed in action and when. Thomas Creek, who was a Vietnam veteran, who was killed in action, is the youngest Medal of Honor recipient in the state of Texas, and the only one in Amarillo. A lot of the information we have archived just in our records. We also work with the Amarillo Genealogical Society, the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum. Any family that has any sort of history that they believe is important to share and they're willing to share with the public, we would be more than glad to look at what they have. There are tens of thousands of individuals buried here at Llano Cemetery, and everyone has a story.
It is our history, it is our heritage. It was a sense of place and community. It was a park once upon a time. People came there and they fished and they had picnics. They had symphony there. It was a place where people came and grieved and yet they celebrate. They still kind of do with the Veterans Day programs they have there. It's the last place you saw your loved one. It's the place that you go to heal. It unifies a town if it's done right. And in years past, Llano Cemetery was definitely the unifying force in many cases in our town, because it's where everybody knew where it was at. Everybody went there for an occasion, the last occasion or the last memory. It's definitely a very, very important part of our community history.